Hello, my name is Michael Pastella, and I am here in the WBUC studio to bring you an interview with your principal, Mr. Ryan Lanigan. This is the first episode in WBUC's new show where I meet with Mr. Lanigan and other members of the OHS administration team once a month. I hope that I can answer some of your questions that you may have so far into the school year, as well as allow you to get to know your principal a little bit better. And joining me today is Mr. Ryan Lanigan. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Mike.
Yeah. Now, I have a few questions that I would like to ask. I have 5 get-to-know-you type questions, and I also have 5 more student-centered questions.
Awesome.
So, if that sounds good with you, are you ready to begin?
Absolutely.
Cool. Being a new principal, many people do not know much about you. Would you be willing to share some of your interests and hobbies outside of school?
Absolutely. So, this is my 13th year actually as a school administrator. It's 11 as a head principal. I had 2 years as an assistant principal. Prior to being here, I came from the Mexico Academy and Central School, so I was their high school principal for the past 5 years. Personally, I played football in college. I'm a former Buck. I played football here, was an active member of the OHS community as a student. Went on to SUNY Brockport. I played football, loved it. Spent my teaching career, teaching physical education and coaching. Enjoyed that. Currently, I'm an avid golfer, and I spend a lot of time with my family. I have an amazing wife who's also a teacher, and I have 3 kids, and they're wonderful. And, let's see, anything else real interesting? So my wife actually is an animal enthusiast, which now means I'm an animal enthusiast, and she has started we have a small hobby farm, so when I'm not here, I'm tending to my goats and my chickens and my ducks and our dogs and cats.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Lanigan, I did a bit of research before the show about you and being an athlete at OHS and in college, and you just told us a little about your sporting career. I'm sure you follow some sports. What are your favorite teams?
So, I'm a huge Syracuse Orange basketball fan, so I'm really looking forward to the season starting this week. I bleed Notre Dame blue and gold for football. They're my team. Growing up an Irish Catholic kid, that's all my dad would let us have on TV. So it just happened to be that that's where my passion grew for Notre Dame. And it's been a rough year because I actually have a master's degree from the University of Cincinnati, so their football team's been killing it. So for me, I kind of have to root for the Bearcats as well. But, I love college athletics. Professional sports, I'm a huge fan of the Boston Red Sox. Growing up, it was very hard times for me when I was growing up and going through high school because they were not always successful. They were the lovable losers, and thank goodness in 2004 they broke that curse, and it's been a pretty good 20-year run as a Red Sox fan. The NFL, I'm actually a Green Bay Packers fan. My best friend who graduated from OHS went to the University of Wisconsin, so when we were in college, I'd go to Green Bay every summer, and we head over and we'd see Packer training camp, and I'd been to a few games, and so over the years I've gotten to really root for the green and gold.
Nice. My grandfather is a Packers fan as well.
Nice.
Big Packers fan. Been to a lot of games.
I see your Bucks. Is that a Bucks logo?
Yeah. My parents lived in Wisconsin for a little bit, so they brought their Wisconsin ways back, and I've always been a Wisconsin sports team kid, except for football. I'm a Jets fan. Life's tough. It's tough out here.
It's really hard to be a Jets fan.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure this job keeps you quite busy, but hopefully you can find time for a movie or TV show every now and then. Do you have any favorites?
Oh, I do. So I love Ted Lasso, probably one of my favorite shows right now. Currently, my wife and I have been binge watching The Morning Show, which has been pretty entertaining. My son and I, we enjoy watching Young Sheldon together. That seems to be our time. So I tend to like sitcoms. I like Blue Bloods on Friday night. That's a good TV drama that I enjoy. But yeah, usually something funny, a good sitcom. I definitely have shows that over the years that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, I really like sitcoms too. I'd have to say one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Scrubs.
Yeah.
My dad showed me that, and I loved it.
That's a good show.
If you wanted the students to know one thing about you, what would that thing be? It can be really anything, like what you believe in, what you like, and what your philosophy on certain subjects is.
My gosh, one thing that I want them to know. I'm an advocate for students. You know, I really believe in that empowerment piece and helping kids get to where they want to go. I think that's the coach in me. You know, I've always liked to help try to bring the best out in others, and I think that you know, one of the things that made me want to be a principal is, you know, that ability that I have to impact what happens for the kids. So I think, you know, that would be the one thing.
What was your favorite class in high school? What made it special for you?
Oh, let's see. I had a lot of great teachers. Boy, my favorite class. I really loved my environmental science class with Mr. Doty. That was a great class when I was here. Mrs. Ranieri's global studies classes were awesome. I had Mrs. Snyder for English, so loved her 9th grade English class. You know what, it's funny, it wasn't really the individual classes, but just the great teachers that I had. And you know, probably my favorite teacher of all time, and it's probably my least favorite subject, sorry math department, was Mr. Pooler. He was my algebra teacher, and I absolutely loved that man. He was amazing, you know, but it was my hardest subject. So teachers make a big difference. It's not always about the content, it's about the people.
Yeah, and the Oswego High School has some really great teachers.
We certainly do.
As I mentioned a bit earlier, I know you are an Oswego High School alumni. So I was wondering about some changes and continuities you have noticed in the school since you spent time here as a student.
So, you know, I think, well, let me see, things that have changed over time. You know, I think that we need to, you know, we need to head places that are innovative and creative. We need to look at building community partnerships. I think that there's potential here for growth and for great things to be accomplished. I think it's just a matter of bringing all the great minds, like you had mentioned, the great teachers, like getting our staff together and looking at things in a certain way. So I'll give you an analogy. We shared with the staff on Staff Development Day on Friday when you were all getting a long weekend. We talked to them about the difference between being a marathon runner and being a rower, right? And, you know, marathon runners are great athletes. Individually, they do amazing work. But if you're on a row team, everybody has to be rowing at the same time to go in the right direction. And I think for us, you know, we have pockets of brilliance here, but we want to go beyond those pockets of brilliance and become a team and where everybody's striving for the same goal.
A few weeks ago, we had the Rachel's Challenge Assembly. Have you seen any change in students' attitudes and actions since that assembly has taken place?
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of kids that maybe, especially in the afternoon of that event, students who maybe typically wouldn't be leaders and agents of change, were very excited about possibly bringing acts of kindness to our school. There's been a list that's been developed of a whole bunch of ideas that students formulated from that afternoon. And, I'm looking forward to when we start to implement some of those things and we'll start to see that cultural shift here. So, yes, I've seen changes. They're coming back in March with something called a chain reaction event, which is even better than what we did in the fall. The fall was really about kind of getting to know the background knowledge, the story, and come springtime, it's really going to be about us and getting to know one another and really being vulnerable and opening up as students and staff with one another so we really understand, the struggles and things that people are going through. Because I think a lot of times people don't realize what's going on in other people's lives. And, they don't take the opportunity all the time to act with kindness and to be thoughtful of others because they just don't know what other people are going to, So
it's great to hear.
We're starting to see some changing.
That's great to hear. That was certainly a powerful assembly. I'm really happy people got something from that.
Good. We're glad to hear that.
We now have new lunchtime arrangements at Oswego High School. I know many people who are not happy with this change and wouldn't mind switching back to the old system we had to start the year. Do you think there's any possibility of that or another type of change? or do you believe these changes are indefinite/definite?
So we were also having a lot of issues with the beginning of the year. We needed to get school open. We were not expecting to have to remain at 6 foot distance, but that was what was recommended by the CDC. We wanted to make sure that we were in the safest spot possible to avoid quarantines and to avoid any potential interruption to in-person learning. So we did the deal where we split the lunches into 20-minute segments. However, there was a lot of transition in the hall. We were having damage in the bathroom by some students who were unfortunately falling prey to the TikTok challenge that was out there in September. Food, because people couldn't get their lunch eaten quick enough. A lot of food was coming out of the cafeteria, finding its way all over the school, which really wasn't what we wanted to do. We recognized that, having an overflow cafeteria in the gymnasium is not the best. One of the things I've heard from students is that the concern is, they don't get to sit near their friends and those things. So we are in the process of putting in QR codes on all the desks. So every day, students will be able to scan in, and then they'll be able to go pick their seat every day for lunch. And that way, because of the QR code, we know where they sat every day. So if we have to contact trace and we have to make sure we know where they are, we have that. So as long as students can follow that procedure, I think what you'll see is students will be happier because they can sit more with people that they want to have time talking with and they don't get to see during the day, and we're not split in half. And what we're finding is we do have some of the bigger lunches definitely need the overflow in the gymnasium. Some of the smaller lunches do not. But again, when the schedule was built back last spring, it was built with the idea that we weren't going to have these masks and other protocols in place. So we've had to adjust on the fly. So, we're certainly open to things, but I think at this point, just trying to make the best of the situation is where we're going to need to be.
It sounds like this change will have some net positives, and some of the quarrels that some students may have with this new system will be resolved in time.
Yeah, I mean, if students have other issues, we're certainly willing to listen to those, but I think the biggest thing I've already heard is that it's really about not being able to spend time with their friends.
Yeah, that's a key part of lunch, because you got to pay attention in your classes, and lunch is really your time to talk with your friends, decompress a little bit halfway through the day.
Absolutely, it's a good time to chill out, and we want students to be able to hang out and have the enjoy those positive peer relationships.
Yeah, those are really important.
Mm-hmm.
To start the school year, there was a high number of physical altercations between students. Since then, there has been a considerable police presence inside the school. Do you think we will ever be able to usher out this police presence while still maintaining a sense of order?
So, coming off the pandemic, people had been home, they've been isolated, they had way too much time on social media, and not a lot of positive adult guidance all the time in their lives. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, they just, when they came back to school, they just had kind of forgotten how to acclimate and how to really follow societal norms. And our number one priority is to make sure that we have a safe environment for students to learn in. And unfortunately, some of those students betrayed what we need and what students should get to feel when they come here. And we are addressing those issues with pretty swift discipline. The police presence is there to help people feel safe. One of the things I will say is having police presence isn't always a negative thing, right? I think people think, well, we see police, so obviously something's wrong. I think it's good that our students definitely notice that our police force is a positive influence and a support system. I mean, I know we have police officers that coach in our school and have different types of relationships. Growing up in elementary school, our local police do our DARE programs, and we want all of you to have those positive relationships with police. So having the police presence there isn't because we necessarily think we're going to have an unsafe situation. It's really about making sure that people feel supported and safe and knowing that they have positive resources to reach out to when things aren't going well.
You make a great point about the police presence. So many things can be interpreted many ways, and I think this is one of those issues. So you bring a really good point to the table, and I'm happy that students will hear that and see that.
Yeah, we just want everyone to feel safe, and some people feel safe knowing there's more police presence, but more than anything, we want people to know that there's resources and that we're working together, right? That our school and our community agencies are partnering to make sure that we're providing the best situation for all of you.
It seems that student involvement in after-school sports and activities is at an all-time low since COVID began, and phones have become as big as they have in the lives of many. I am not excluded from this by any means. I was wondering if you had any plans on how to boost student involvement and how or if you are content with the level of student involvement we have here at OHS.
So this is a very complex issue, right? I think there are a lot of students that because of the pandemic were able to pick up employment opportunities that maybe were not available to them prior to the pandemic. And many students, for whatever, either picked them up just because they needed something positive to do. Some of them had to pick them up to support families who may have had parents or other relatives lose jobs during the pandemic. There's a lot of that out there that I think has taken students in a different direction. I think that people have to learn how to reacclimate. So, as we've come back, I'm glad to see so many students are participating. I think looking at the attendance of our events, there are a lot of students that are coming and supporting other students at current events. And I've heard a lot of students say, you know what, next year I'll be ready, I'm ready to play. I just think there was a lot of apprehension coming back into school. I think in the fall, a lot of families and students had kind of forgotten our protocols for how to sign up, when things are, because we just we've been out of the routine. And I think now I'd be interested to see where our numbers for extracurriculars go in the winter time, into the spring, and then into next fall. I'm excited. We have a drama performance coming up this weekend, which is going to be outstanding. We're planning to do a musical again. We're doing more events. So between, our marching band did an outstanding job this fall. So I just think that all of these different avenues, it's going to take a little time to rebuild and bring student athletes and student musicians and student artists and student performers back into the fold. But I do believe that people will start reacclimating themselves as we go.
It sounds like we have a lot higher level of student involvement than some people may think at first glance, and I'm glad that it's going to continue to grow. Well,
and the other thing is we will do too is, part of this is having students being a part of the discussion, because we also have to understand that certain offerings that we've had may not be as relevant as they once were, and maybe there's other things that students would much rather participate in. So I think finding out what students want and what makes the most sense for students, and then adjusting our resources appropriately. So if there's different opportunities that students want, then we need to explore what all of you want, because the purpose is for you to learn and grow. And we want to, we talk about being a district that empowers our students. Well, empowerment truly means creating opportunities for you to do the things that you're interested in, that you have passion for, as students. And we need to be listening to that. So it can't just be about, well, this is what we want you to do, so we're going to do that. We need to listen and have those dialogues and talk about, do we need to make adjustments? Do we need to change? Do we need to add something? So we should be about continuous improvement and growth, and I think you'll see that.
You make a great point. Student input is key to really what goes on here at OHS. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Lanigan, for your time. It is greatly appreciated. And to the students, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope you learned something new about our principal and school, as well as our school's policy and hope for the future. If you have any questions for Mr. Lanigan that you would like addressed on our next installment of our show, please check out the flyers that are hanging up around the school. There's a QR code on the flyers that will direct you to a form for you to submit your questions.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it. And we want to be, as administrators, and I'm sure we'll have the rest of my admin team meet with you as well and answer questions, but our goal is to make sure that we're putting our teachers and all of our staff in the best position possible so that students get what you need to be successful. So I'm more than glad to go up anytime I can to answer questions and be as transparent and open as possible with everybody to what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Lanigan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.